All right, you guys. So it's finally back. And by finally back, I mean the king himself, Hank Hill. So the King of the Hill revival just started on August 4th, and it's the sixth right now. It consists of 10 episodes. And I have to say, this one by far, because Hulu and the revivals of animated series such as Futurama was bad. It was so bad. And I didn't put a lot of faith into King of the Hills revival being good. And it's good. They brought back the original voice actors. They brought back the original creative staff, shall we say, of King of the Hill, and they did it right. And not only did they do it right, but it still has the same feeling of the original King of the Hill show, with introducing topics that are like legit nowadays. So before we get into any spoilers, I'm just gonna say, watch it. Watch it. 10 episodes. I crushed it out over like 3 days, man. Well, 2 days, because it came out on the 4th, and I just finished it. So I guess you could say 3 days, because I had the 4th, 5th, and 6th. So 3 days, and I crushed 10 episodes. Anyways, spoiler alerts. If you guys don't want to get spoiled, just come back to this video. But all I gotta say is, this is amazing. So my thoughts on the show, we'll break it down episode by episode. So episode 1, hands down, it's just the return of Hank and Peggy after 8 years. So they went to Saudi Arabia. They finally returned to Arlen, where they find out basically Bill is like bedridden, and he's like stuck in his bed, and he just gets everything delivered through his window. Dale is just paranoid Dale. Boomhauer is just, well, he's no longer a playboy anymore. He's got himself a girlfriend that has a kid. And then, of course, you got, Khan and his wife that, are just what they always are. And you find out Bobby is the co-owner slash chef of a Japanese German American fusion restaurant, which to me is insane to even think about. Just the revival of them coming back in that first episode was so good, due to the fact that they had to get an Uber. And just imagine like older people trying to figure out Uber. It's so funny to me, because when the Uber driver drops them off at their house, he's like, "Hey, don't forget, give me 5 stars." And Hank's like, "You know what? I'm going to give you 4. It gives you something to work towards." Even though everybody nowadays knows you have to give everybody a perfect rating when it comes to those Uber riding apps, because otherwise you're going to get fired. Episode 2 is the beer story, which I thought this was going to be a much, much larger overarching story. And the beer story basically is Hank and Bobby decide to brew their own beers and enter into a competition. Um, I think it was funny. It was great. On top of that, them going to the competition, them getting to an argument, and then Hank realizing, you know what, I'm going to be a bigger man and just bow out of this competition. And then you got, Bobby that's like, you know what, I'm going to bail out too, because, this got kind of personal. I think it was great. Episode 3 is called Bobby. Bobby Gets Grilled. And he basically opens up his restaurant, and that's where a bunch of people come at him for cultural appropriation. And they are like, "We don't like this because you're a white guy that runs a Japanese German American fusion restaurant, right?" And it all stems from him being unable to get his charcoal, which he doesn't tell Hank. Hank thinks that he runs the entire restaurant for propane and propane accessories, and he's like, "Actually, it's charcoal." And that's what starts the entire chain of reaction going off, is that the supplier of the charcoal refused to give him charcoal because he's a white dude running a Japanese restaurant. And the best part is they're like, "Hey," he grabs he grabs what's his name, Chain, and he's like, "Hey, I need you to come with me because we need to go and sort this out so that I can get more charcoal because I only have one box of charcoal." They walk into the charcoal supplier, and it's a black guy. It was adopted by a Japanese family that was raised in Japan. Dude, it was like, it was so funny. Like, I loved it. I thought it was so well done. All right, so episode 4 was called Chore Money, Chore Problems, and basically it goes back to another thing we have nowadays, and it's apps that you can go on, download, and then like, hey, I need help with fill in the blank task, and you can hire somebody, right? Boomhauer ends up suffering an injury. He gets a concussion. He's unable to continue doing his part on this app, right? So Hank's like, you know what? I'll step in. I'll help you. So he starts helping by doing Boomhauer's work, right? And that's when he realizes, like, he can't be his normal self. He's got to be nice because people like personable people. And that's when he's like, okay, we're going to have to, be personable. And he starts like spilling the beans, explaining like, oh, well, he runs into a family with a newborn baby. And he's like, well, me and my wife, and he starts explaining stories, and come find out they have a YouTube following, and it embarrasses Peggy. It's funny. And of course, in that episode, you find out that Connie is actually dating Chain. And Bobby's like, what? You're dating my co-owner's son? Because it's Chain's dad that actually is the co-owner of the restaurant. Episode 5 is going to be New Ref in Town. This one's great because one thing that is really preached throughout King of the Hill, because he's all American. He's all about American football. Well, while he was in Saudi Arabia, changing out propane tanks at a Saudi Arabian stadium, that's when he fell in love with soccer or football. And during that, he's like talking with Boomhauer. He goes to like one of Boomhauer's white girlfriend's kids' games. Boomhauer's like, I can't do this no more, man. Dang old freaking banging. Y'all can do whatever the hell you want. That's Boomhauer, right? And they end up basically throwing a fit. Boomhauer's like, I ain't doing this. So that's when the secret comes out that Hank is a fan of soccer. And during this, it's so funny because Dale's like, he's a spy. So, of course, Hank gets promoted to do the reffing gig for the high school games, to ref one of the major high school soccer matches ever. Gets kidnapped by Dale, where he has to convince Dale that he's a double agent, that he was hired by the United States government to go to Saudi Arabia to become a spy for the Saudi Arabian government just to actually be an American spy. And Dale's like, son of a bitch, I knew it. Like, I love it. Like, it's good. But New Ref in Town, great. I love it. Peggy's fade out. Bro, this episode, Peggy's fade out, it's the 6th episode of the season, and it's where Bill is like, all right, guys, I'm out of here. I'm going to go hang out with my other friends. Well, come find out, Bill got hired at an African-American barber shop. And he has everybody convinced at this African-American barbershop that his wife is Peggy. And that he adopted Bobby. So instead of like Hank going and finding out about the whole entire thing, right? And being like, what the hell, Bill? I'm going to beat your ass. And instead of Bill just coming out and outright being like, hey, it was all made up, Bill goes, Peggy actually died. And I'm just like, oh my God. And he holds a whole fake funeral. And that's when Bobby learns that Connie and Chain are actually in an E&M, was an ethically non-monogamous relationship or an open relationship. And Bobby's like, I see my way in. Uh, it's so freaking funny. The next one is going to be Any Given Hill Day. And then this one, Bobby gets himself a girlfriend. Her name's Willow. She's a vegan. And of course, Bobby meets her in the alley behind his restaurant because she's stealing the fats or the grease to make soap. Right? He brings her to dinner where basically Bobby tells Hank, hey, I got us tickets to go to a fantasy football camp for the Dallas Cowboys. Hank gets all excited, and that's when Willow goes, I'm going too. And little does Hank know, when they get there, Willow's dad used to work for the Dallas Cowboys. And they're like, she's a stud like wide receiver and can play football. And like Hank's like super impressed. And it's just so funny, the back and forth between those two. And the side mission Peggy was on in that episode was she was finding out about the Neighbor app. Everybody has the Neighbor app where it tells you like, the Ring doorbell app where they're like, hey, there was crime in this area. Hey, somebody broke into vehicles here. Hey, somebody did this. Well, Peggy wants to get away from technology like that and basically sets up a library where you can just walk up to the front of her house, open the doors to this like modified birdhouse, as Hank put it, and just borrow a book. Well, next thing you know, Peggy's breaking out in hives all over her arm. And she's like, what's going on here? Dale's like, I'll tell you what it is. It's bed bugs. They live in the spines of the books. So, of course, it gets out on the fucking Neighborhood app. And then the Neighborhood app gets everybody to actually come and meet up at this community book box and hash out some problems. That part's actually pretty decent. I did like that because Dale's like going house to house and bug bombing like all these houses and just spreading lies, being like, I think you got bed bugs because, they really thrive in hot temperatures. Oh, they really thrive in cold. He just keeps spewing all kinds of nonsense. Episode 8 is the one that really confirmed some of the leaks that we got earlier this year when it came to this revival, and that is the fact that Min and Con are divorced. So, of course, the entire premise of this episode is, oh, yes, you redneck hillbilly, was like, we're throwing our party because, we've been married longer than you. And he kept rubbing it into Hank and Peggy's face that they've been married longer. And Bobby was hired to do the cooking for it, yada, yada, yada. But yeah, Hank and Peggy were trying to sleep. They hear something outside. Hank goes to investigate, and he finds Con sleeping in the garage. And that's when they found out they were divorced. And then, of course, they turn around. Peggy, later on in the episode, is like, I know you're lying to me. And Hank's like, fine. He tells her. And then Peggy isn't even the one that spills the beans because Bobby comes out and Bobby's like, hey, Dad, what's going on? And Hank finally gets convinced because Peggy's like, just tell him that they're divorced. So as Bobby is going to console Connie, who do you think the photographer for this entire massive party for Con and Min's 30th anniversary is? Dale. And Dale has cameras up all over, and he starts hitting buttons, and it throws Bobby and Connie up on the Jumbotron as he's consoling her and being like, hey, listen, how long has your parents been divorced? 2 years. Blah, 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 blah. Why is everybody looking at us? And then they're like, oh, snap. And that's how the cat gets out of the bag. And I thought it was great. No, Episode 9 is No Hank Left Behind. This one's funny. And I only say that because it really touches something that was big over the last couple years, and that's like the Andrew Tate movement, right? Where Andrew Tate's like, alpha male, you're a beta male. Well, they have a character like that in that episode. And most of the episode, because it's Hank with GH, good Hank, his younger brother. And they just finally get a settlement after, getting some lawsuits settled because of Cotton's death. And good Hank, who's a teenager, he's probably like 16, 17 at the time, or somewhere around there. He's a teenager. Decides that he wants to take a portion of his settlement money and go to the Andrew Tate gathering and just prove that he is an alpha male. Where Hank turns around and he calls in a favor. And who does he call that favor into? Dale, of all people, Dale. To gather all the information he can on the guy that the Andrew Tate character, basically. And freaking, he comes in and he just basically sets the record straight and is like, listen, everybody's entitled to their opinions. Listen, just because you got rejected, just because you got friend zoned, just because of fill in the blank, doesn't mean you act like this. I think it was a very well done episode. There's a good story to be told. And then on top of that, like the side mission for Peggy in this episode, she sprains her knee playing, of all things, pickleball. Because pickleball is the hotness right now. And she ends up going to Dallas, staying with Bobby, and she keeps having panic attacks. They put her in the MRI machine, she has a panic attack. She gets in the elevator with the doctors to go get an MRI, has a panic attack. And she has multiple panic attacks. Bobby kind of just goes, hey, this is what I'm going to do, calm down. She calms down, gets the MRI, just a sprain. And the best part is like, they're like, well, her knee's perfectly fine, but there's some scar tissue in her groin area. It looks like a 12-year-old kid kicked her. And Bobby goes, how you know it was a 12-year-old kid? Like, it was so good. And then episode 10, sound investment. The whole premise of this one is Boomhauer's like, you know what? I want to start a hog hunting business. So he starts a business hog hunting, and he's looking for investors so that he can go out and start knocking these hogs down. So, of course, who ends up showing up for this episode? Buck Strickland. Because Hank is torn on whether he wants to invest into this company like Peggy does. Peggy's all for it. Peggy's like, I want to invest. And Hank's like, I'd slow down on that. Hank turns around and goes talks to Buck. Buck, convinces him, hey, you should go and buy what shares they have left. Get in on this. And Hank's like, okay. So he goes to buy in. Well, come find out he couldn't. So you got Boomhauer, that's the CEO. You got all these other guys, Bill, Dale, and Peggy, all invested into this company. And then, of course, Buck. The company starts skyrocketing because it's a penny stock. They're buying out all these other hog hunting businesses, yada, yada, yada. And then all of a sudden, Hank's sitting inside. He's looking at his portfolio, and he's like, damn, my propane stocks are doing really well. It's a nice, steady, slow, gradual climb. And then he opens up the one for the hog hunting business. And it's just skyrocketing. And Hank's like, I'm going to invest a little bit. So he starts buying stocks, goes outside, and that's when there was a rug pull. The stock just goes up and then just comes crashing back down. Little does he know, but Peggy cashed out. She's like, I'm done. Cashes out, pulls her money out. And, of course, John Redcorn at the end of the episode is like, I want you to invest in my business. That one was pretty good. But the side story in this one was the fact that Bobby and Connie were going out on their official first dates. So their official first date, Bobby's like, I'm going to take you to go to a violin recital. He takes her to a violin recital, and that's where Connie's like, we should do a date that we both want to do. And then they go to a trampoline park. They're jumping around a trampoline. They're having a great time. Next thing you know, some dipshit kid comes in and takes them both out. And Connie, like, breaks her shoulder, collarbone, whatever. She ends up in the hospital. Bobby, is talking with the nurse and was just like, oh, well, her full name's this, her blah, blah, blah. And the nurse is like, wait, are you her legal guardian? And Bobby's like, nope. And then Bobby goes in to talk to her and is like, Connie, because he has a realization while he's sitting there at the, at the cafeteria, that are they just chasing something they had when they were 12, or are they meant to be together? And Bobby goes to say this to Connie, and Connie breaks down crying. And Connie goes, wait, I love you. Basically, and pours out her guts. So, on a scale of 1 to 10, a lot of places, like IGN, like, I hate saying this, but I saw IGN release an article. It was like a 10. A Game Informer, a lot of these reviewers, and I want to tell you guys the truth. Don't trust those fucking cocksuckers. They are god awful. Like, trust people that actually watch the show, that actually enjoy the show, instead of some dipshit that's getting paid to review it. Because I'm not getting paid to review it. This video may make me like a tenth of a cent. I'm telling you guys to go watch this show because it was really fucking good. It was really good. And there's so many things that is relatable, and I think that's why I really, really love King of the Hill at the end of the day, is that a lot of stuff for King of the Hill is relatable. And especially the older I get, and bro, I Googled it the other day, and I had a midlife crisis because it dawned on me. I'm 3 years off for being the same age as freaking Hank Hill was during the first episode of season 1. Okay. But, all serious, I'm telling you guys, go watch it. Go enjoy it. Like, it's very well done. It's a really good revival. Go enjoy it. Anyways, you guys, y'all take it easy. Don't forget to mash that like button, subscribe. Let me know down in the comment section if you want me to do more reviews of this kind of stuff. Who knows? I might go and chapterize it episode by episode. Do an opening. Do the closing. I've rambled for 23 minutes already. But anyways, you guys, don't forget to mash that like button, subscribe. Every little bit helps out. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.